Tell me about a past conflict you had with someone. How did this conflict arise? How was it dealt with? And what did you learn from it? I was the supervisor of a small shipping and receiving team many years ago. I had five employees. There's 4 or 5 employees. Some it would fluctuate. There was a decent bit of turnaround. Um, but I had one employee in particular who was always what you might call a problem employee. He was aggressive. He would talk back a lot. He generally had a bad attitude, but he had a great work ethic. Um, so the problem arose when eventually it got to the point where he was being extremely disrespectful, not only to me, his direct supervisor, but also the other individuals on our team, which at that point I believed that he had crossed the line. So the first major transgression this individual made, I sat him down. We had quite a long discussion about his responsibility, his personal life, if he needed help, and I told him that since we had known each other for a couple of years at that point, he'd been a good worker for quite a while, and so I told him that I'm willing to do anything he needed, as his leader and as somebody who strove to set an example for him. I let him know that I always had his back, and if he needed something, I would be there for him. And that somewhat solved the problem for a little while. So here's where the problem got exacerbated. We were, before I had risen into that leadership position, we had been friends outside of work. So often he would talk to me at work as if we were outside of work. And obviously that's a problem because in a professional environment, you're there to do a job and you're there to do it well. So the second major transgression, he said some pretty work inappropriate things. I'll leave it at that. But he said some things that he shouldn't have. And I gave him basically an ultimatum. I said, you can have one more chance to change your ways and realize that you are in error and you have a job to do, or you can basically walk out the door now. So he basically begged me to stay. And because he was my friend, I made the mistake of allowing him to stay on my team. Um, and as before, it was okay again for a little while. And then shortly after that, not much longer, he had a third major transgression. And at that point, I sat him down and I told him that in the future, I told him that he'd lost his job and that in the future, he needs to realize that there is a hierarchy within a company. And when something needs to be done and you are the person to do it, that you have to do it. And I learned a major lesson from it, and that is that you have to separate your professional life and your personal life, because if you don't, it will be your undoing.